50, I never imagined life could surprise me again. I believed I'd experienced all the highs and lows that time could offer: love, loss, joy, and heartache. My days had settled into a comfortable rhythm, predictable and calm, filled with the quiet routines of someone who'd made peace with solitude. Romantic love felt like a distant memory, something from my younger years. I'd navigated marriages, heartbreak, and the ache of letting go. My focus had shifted to reminiscing about the past rather than dreaming of what lay ahead. Contentment had replaced excitement, and I was okay with that, or so I thought. My life revolved around work, the occasional visit from loved ones, and serene evenings spent alone with a book or my thoughts. I'd accepted this simplicity. Then, out of nowhere, Julian came into my life. He was 25, tall, with a quiet confidence and a warm, steady gaze that caught me off guard. Our meeting was unremarkable at first. Julian had just moved to town and needed a temporary place to stay. Through a mutual acquaintance, I offered him the spare room in my home. It felt like a practical decision, nothing more. I didn't expect it to shift the course of my life. I assumed Julian would be a fleeting presence, someone I'd exchange polite small talk with before he moved on. But there was something different about him, an understated charm that lingered. He wasn't loud or flashy, but his presence had a quiet strength, like a steady heartbeat in a silent room. At first, our interactions were simple. He'd pass me in the hallway with a kind smile or a gentle nod. We'd share brief conversations about the weather or the day's events, nothing profound. Yet, over time, those moments began to carry weight. There was a warmth to our exchanges I hadn't expected, a natural ease that crept up on me. It started small, a longer chat over morning coffee, a shared chuckle over a quirky news story, a fleeting moment of connection that felt real. I'd spent years guarding my heart, but Julian's presence was like a gentle breeze, slowly wearing down my defenses. One evening, as I sat reading, he tapped on my doorframe, holding a small bag of groceries. I picked up some herbal tea, he said, offering a box of chamomile I hadn't tried before. Thought you might like it. I was caught off guard by the gesture. You didn't have to do that, I replied, trying to mask the warmth spreading in my chest. His smile was easy, unassuming. I know, but I noticed you enjoy tea. It was a small act, but those small acts began to add up. Julian started helping around the house, tightening a loose cabinet handle, carrying in groceries, even offering to take my dog for a walk. He never asked for anything in return, and his thoughtfulness felt like a gift. In a world that often felt transactional, his kindness stood out, a reminder that care could be genuine. I found myself looking forward to seeing him. It wasn't a loud or obvious shift, but a subtle undercurrent, like the hum of a distant song. The house felt different with him in it, warmer, more alive. Our moments together, however brief, carried a quiet beauty. Curiosity stirred within me, a feeling I hadn't known in years. I wanted to know more about Julian, who he was, what he loved, where he'd been. One night, we sat on the back porch, sipping tea as the sky turned shades of orange and pink. There was no rush, no need to fill the silence. We just were. That evening, something shifted. A soft ache bloomed in my chest, a longing I hadn't allowed myself to feel in ages. Julian asked about my life, simple things, like the books I cherished or the songs that defined my youth. His genuine interest surprised me. Few people had taken the time to see me, not just as a colleague or neighbor, but as someone with stories worth hearing. Our conversations grew richer. We'd talk for hours, laughing, sharing pieces of ourselves. He spoke of his dreams, his fears, the uncertainty of his path. I shared stories of my past, my hopes, the things I'd buried long ago. His openness was refreshing, his honesty a balm to my guarded heart. One night, after a power outage left us in candlelight, we talked until the early hours. Julian opened up about his struggles, moments of doubt, times he'd felt adrift. His vulnerability was raw, unguarded, and it struck a chord. "Do you ever feel like you're chasing something you'll never catch?" he asked, his eyes searching mine. I nodded. "Sometimes life feels like a race you're always losing," I admitted. He smiled, a quiet understanding passing between us. "Maybe it's not about catching up," he said. "Maybe it's about savoring what's here, even the small stuff." His words lingered, shifting how I saw him. He wasn't just kind, he was wise, introspective in a way that left me in awe. The weeks turned into months, and a change took root in me. It was subtle at first, like a hairline fracture in the walls I'd built. I noticed things about Julian, the way his laugh lit up a room, the way his glance lingered when he thought I wasn't looking. There was something in his eyes, something more than friendship, though I hesitated to name it. One evening, after a particularly tough day, I withdrew into myself, weighed down by stress. I didn't want to burden anyone, but Julian wouldn't let me retreat. He sat beside me, his voice soft. "You okay?" he asked. I brushed it off with a forced smile. "Just a rough day. I'll be fine." He didn't let it go. Instead, he reached for my hand, his touch warm and steady. "You don't have to hide," he said. "You're allowed to be seen." His words hit me like a wave, unraveling something deep within. I sat there, staring at our joined hands, his quiet strength anchoring me. Without thinking, I leaned closer, my voice barely a whisper. "This shouldn't be happening," I said, my heart racing. His gaze held mine, unwavering. "But it is," he replied softly, "and I'm glad." In that moment, I let go of doubt, of fear, of the rules I'd set for myself. Our age difference, the opinions of others, none of it mattered. We didn't rush or make grand declarations. Instead, we let our bond grow naturally, like a river finding its course. Doubts crept in at times. I questioned what we were, worried about judgment, wondered if I was foolish. But Julian's presence, his smile, his voice, his steady warmth quieted those fears. He made me feel alive, seen, cherished in ways I'd forgotten were possible. As months passed, Julian found his own place and began building a life here. Yet, he still made time for me visiting, helping with small chores, sharing meals. There was no pressure to define us, no haste to pull apart. We simply existed together, our connection a quiet, steady comfort. I fell in love with him, not just for his kindness, but for how he brought light to my world. With Julian, I didn't have to pretend or hide. I could be me, flaws, dreams, and all. He reminded me that love doesn't follow a script. It arrives unannounced, in its own time, defying age or expectation. Some stories don't begin in youth or follow a predictable path. Some start later, when you've stopped looking. They don't arrive with fanfare, but slip in quietly, changing everything. Julian did that for me. He didn't just bring love back into my life, he brought me back to myself.